Fear of the Dark.
I was dating a guy twice my age who I worked with at a grocery store. He had a side job with a morgue where he picked up bodies on call. He takes them to the morgue and does paperwork, tags them, and puts them in a freezer. I thought what he did was admirable because someone needs to do it, and death is a touchy subject. He made himself to be a really good guy who cares about people and wants to be the guy who gets the hard stuff done in a caring manner. But unfortunately, he turns out to be a creep. The morgue also does funeral services and stuff like that, so there were little rooms with chairs and such, and also an office. One night we were supposed to hang out and he asked me to meet him at the morgue. This was in the middle of the night. No one else is there. I figured we'd meet up and leave to go get some food and just talk in his car like usual, but instead he wanted me to come inside. He showed me around the little rooms in the office. It was kind of cool, like being in a horror video game. Then he told me to wait and he left me in the office. After a few minutes, he texted me and told me to come into a room that I hadn't been in. It was the room where they get the bodies ready for the freezer and do the paperwork. I don't know what it's really called. I went inside there and I saw a dead body just out in the open in the middle of the room on a gurney. I froze in the doorway because I wasn't even expecting that. I felt like I should be upset, but he thought it was funny, so I just played it off cool. He wanted me to look at it. It was an old lady. I've seen plenty of stuff on the internet, so I thought to myself this wasn't as messed up as it was. He finished up and then he took me into the freezer to show me other bodies. There were like 6 in their body bags. Only one other was unzipped. He also showed me the oven where they were cremated. This was all in the middle of the night. No warning on my part. No one else was in the building. I kind of just blocked it out of my memory for a couple of months. I started having other issues with this guy and ended up telling the story to my friend. My friend helped me realize that the situation was really screwed. I just thought I'd share it here since I've since still had issues with this dude and finally have him blocked on everything. I truly do feel that he hopefully leaves me alone. I've held off from telling this story besides telling close friends, and it wasn't even big in the news. But it really screwed me up, and I'm reading other stories which has given me the motivation to share. When I was 14, I was naive and dumb, and my need for attention was all converged. I was abused, alone, and hardly had friends because I wasn't allowed to hang out with my friends except in school. This is when I discovered Omegle, as most teens did in the mid-2010s. I met a guy from Missouri, and he claimed to be 20. His name is Noble. We talked, and my birth giver found out and kept making steps to keep me from talking to him, but I was stubborn and thought that he loved me. So our relationship goes on as I'm taken from my home and put into a safe house to protect me from being exploited. The thing is, I still had access to a cell phone, Wi-Fi, and other things on the internet. So Noble and I kept talking, and I found out that he's in fact not 20, but he is 31. I was delusional, and I was like, oh, that's fine, because again, I believed he loved me and only loved me. There was lots of in and outs at youthful homeless shelters and programs, and I was placed back with my birth giver for a short amount of time, but was taken again and given to my biological father. He then also proceeds to find out about this guy and tries to prevent me from talking to him. It worked for a while as I was in therapy and on meds. After we moved, I was taken off my meds and out of therapy, and I started acting up and reaching out to him again. Well, I was removed from my biological father's home due to his and my behaviors. I'm now 15, my 3rd week there, and I run away and told Noble to come pick me up. He drove 16 hours as I stayed hidden in some random lady's house that I met at the gas station. He arrives and we start heading back to Missouri. While we're in Pennsylvania, driving from Southern Tier, New York, I'm playing on his phone and I see that he got repeated messages from a few girls' accounts on Snapchat. I asked him about it and he comes clean that he's been doing the same thing with other girls that he does with me, nudes, calls, etc. I start crying and tell him to either bring me back or drop me off on the side of the road and I'll find my way back. He tells me no and proceeds to pull over and choke me until I'm unconscious. Now mind you, I'm 5'6", 111 pounds soaking wet, anorexic at the time, and he's 200 and something pounds and over 5'10". I don't know how long I was out, but it was long enough for him to find a hotel, check us in, and get a room without anyone suspecting. I woke up with him on top of me, assaulting me. The rest of the trip was kind of a blur, but we ended up finally reaching his apartment, and I asked to see his phone so I can play a game. His dumbass gave me his phone, and then I text my grandmother and my birth giver on messages saying that I loved them, and if they didn't hear from me, I was in Missouri. After multiple times of being assaulted, forced to take pictures for other disgusting individuals, and forced to act like I was happy so I can live, like the meme minus the yelling FBI, the FBI and Missouri State Police bust down the door and handcuffed him, took me into a car and took him to another one. They took all of his computers, hard drives, etc., and I was brought to the juvie, then transferred to a mental ward for weeks, then back to juvie. I guess they kept me because I said I wanted to unalive myself because everything that was happening. So instead of being treated like a kid who was groomed and assaulted and kidnapped, I was treated like a criminal. I was in Missouri for a month before I was put on a plane and sent back to New York, where I was quickly put into residential. He was sentenced to 30 years for what he did to me and other girls my age. I could tell you this story now because he randomly found me on Instagram and started to reach out to me again from prison. I told that bastard that he was disgusting and that I wasn't a naive kid anymore and that he needs to leave me alone. Thankfully, he got the memo the first time, but he should have never been able to reach out to me. I keep my eye on where he goes, but it seems like he's either working his years off or he's been getting less time somehow because his years dropped from 30 to 26 that he needs to serve. So Noble, if you're on your little prison tablet and somehow is on this subreddit, I hope we never meet again. This is a long story, so stick with me please. I'm a 23-year-old female and a bartender. I have some crazy stories where I've been genuinely scared for my life, but this has to be the worst. I'm working a double shift at the restaurant. Around 11 a.m., a delivery driver comes in with a package that I had to sign for. He comes in, I sign for the package, and tell him to have a good day with a smile. I continue my shift per usual. This was a Saturday or a Friday maybe, I can't remember specifically, but later on we got busy. The restaurant and the parking lot was full. I see a lot of different people daily, plus seeing someone for the second time ever out of their uniform. I really didn't even recognize them at first. The FedEx driver comes and sits at the bar. I don't obviously remember him at 25-second interaction that we had this morning. I start talking to him as I do with all of my customers. I give him a drink, appetizer, another drink, entree, etc. Our conversation started. How long have you been working here? Probably about a few years. I've worked my way up. How do you like it here? It was just regular conversation with a bar guest. It slowly became not so regular. He asked me if I had a boyfriend. I said yes. He even changed the subject and then went back. He was complimenting me, saying how beautiful I was every few minutes or so. Can I have your number? No, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think my boyfriend would appreciate that. Okay, well, what's your last name? We could just be Facebook friends? To be honest with you, all of these conversations are annoying, but normal interactions that I have with men in this industry. He started to become really pushy over time, pushing for my number on my social media. I continued to politely decline and laugh it off. He then tells me, I actually came to drop off a package with FedEx. You signed for it. I came back just for you. I smile and continue with my stupid customer service. Oh yeah, that's right, I remember you. I smile again and laugh it off. I even step back to vent with my manager at this point about how he was extra pushy and uncomfortable. Fast forward about an hour later, he pays his tab and leaves. I'm so glad that he's gone at this point. We'll just take a guess that it was about 7 p.m. when he leaves. We are still busy and we close about 10 p.m. We finish dinner service, customers start to slowly leave, and the restaurant is finally empty. I've been cleaning for a while and I'm finally finishing up. It's about 10:30 at this point. I'm cleaning the bar and I look up. Mind you, the whole front of the restaurant that I'm facing consists of large windows that face the parking lot. I just so happen to see one car in the parking lot, and I notice that the delivery driver from earlier is standing outside of his car, walking around it, and seeming like he is cleaning out the back seat. Doors open, and he's leaning in and out with a bag. As soon as I realized it was him, who had left almost 4 hours ago, my heart sank. Why is he still here? Why is he cleaning out the back seat? I completely freak out. My manager and I are the only people left in the restaurant at this point. It's almost 11 p.m. I run to her and I tell her everything about how he came in just for me and how he seemingly left 4 hours ago, and I made her come from the back of the restaurant to behind the bar up front so she can see him in the parking lot. I don't know, waiting for me? She says she's gonna call the police. At this point, my boyfriend and I had an apartment literally 5 minutes away from the restaurant. I told her not to worry about it. I'll just call my boyfriend to come and get me. I did just that, but my boyfriend could immediately tell something was wrong, and when I'm scared or anxious, I ramble. So I gave him a brief debriefing of what was going on. He said it would be there soon, and I hung up. My manager made me sit in the office until he got here, so I didn't see what actually went down. All I remember is my boyfriend coming into the restaurant to get me, walking me to the car through the back door, and getting me home. My boyfriend, who is very confrontational and very protective, later tells me that he pulled into the parking lot to see the FedEx driver sitting in the driver's seat of his car. My boyfriend walked up to his car and knocked on a window for him to roll it down. He does, and my boyfriend tells him something along the lines of, "You need to get out of here." This is where the scariest thing happens. The dude responded to him in a different language, mumbling and acting like he didn't speak English. My boyfriend said something like, "I know you speak English. You've been talking to my girlfriend all night, and you need to get out of here." Dude continued to ramble in a different language until my boyfriend raised his voice and basically said, "You have 15 seconds before I pull you out of this car, and you will never be leaving this parking lot." I don't know, I guess the guy got scared because he finally just put the car in drive and he sped off. I was on edge for weeks after this interaction and even considered switching jobs. Why was he still in the parking lot that long after closing hours and after cashing his tab? And why was he cleaning out his back seat? To the creepy bar guest, delivery driver, let's not never meet again.